For this jelly, I'm going to be using 2 of these little 6-ounce containers of blackberries, and these are super, super delicious at this time of year. And I'm also going to be adding in a jalapeno. You can control the heat in this jelly simply by removing the ribs and seeds. So if you want this to be super spicy, chop it up like this. Leave all of the ribs and all of the seeds. If you don't want this to be super spicy, you can do what I'm doing, which is removing the ribs and the seeds. So just take your knife and go over it like so, and cut those out. That is where most of the capsaicin, which is what makes it spicy, is stored. Now that I've removed the stems and seeds, I just want to cut this lengthwise into very small little strips. And again, this is kind of up to you, like how much jalapeno flavor do you want it to have, you know, how often do you want it to be, big chunks, little chunks. That is totally up to you. I want it to kind of blend in with the blackberries and add a little bit of jalapeno flavor, but really not very much heat. So this is how I'm doing mine, but definitely adjust yours to your own taste. I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of these up. These are going to go into my pan. Next, I'm adding in my blackberries. So I have those 2 packages, which were 6 ounces each, and I just rinsed them off and kind of let them drain for a few minutes. I'm also adding in 1/2 cup of sugar, and this is the organic sugar, and 1/2 cup of water. I'm going to give this a little mix and then put it onto the stove on medium-high heat. And let me tell you guys something really cool about blackberries. They are really high in pectin, so they are going to make jelly out of themselves. I don't even have to add like Sure-Jell or anything like that. We just need to cook them and cook them down until they make jelly out of themselves. So I just want to give it one more nice little stir until it comes up to a boil. And then I'm going to reduce my heat down. So right now it's on number 7 out of 10. I have a digital stove. So right now I'm on 7, and I'm going to reduce it down to probably like 4.5 once this comes to a boil, and just let it cook down slowly. So you can see I have definitely reached my boil, and I'm going to put a little bit of salt. I don't know, that's probably 1/2 teaspoon-ish. That's just going to bring out the flavor a little bit. Going to give this a stir, and then I'm going to reduce the heat down to, like I said, about 4.5, maybe even 4, just to bring it down a bit. You can see a huge color change here. Those blackberries are starting to break down, and that is just what I want to be happening. I'm getting my water coming up out of there. When all of the water is evaporated is when it's going to really start turning into a jelly. Not all of the water, most of the water. Alright, reduce the heat, keep cooking. So this has been on a slow simmer for like 12 minutes, which is plenty of time for those berries to cook. I want to kind of scrape down the sides a little bit as best I can. And then after I do that, I just want to take a fork, and you can definitely let this cool and do this in a food processor or blender or whatever you want to use to chop it up. But you can also just take a fork and kind of mash these blackberries. I'm going to mash these up, and once I get them pretty mushed, I'm going to let this cook for just a few more minutes until it gets a little bit thicker, and then it's going to be time to take it off of the stove. Okay, so this is ready to come off of the stove and go into a jar, but I just want to show you what I'm looking at here and how I can tell without, you know, touching it or taking its temperature. So if you look at these bubbles, they're not like water bubbles. You know, like if you think about what boiling water looks like, the bubbles come up to the top, they disappear right away. They don't hold their shape like this. And these are kind of like thick bubbles, I guess. I don't know what to call them. They're like syrupy bubbles. So I also want to show you what the texture looks like, and I did mash this up with my fork like I told you I was going to. So you can see that it's this beautiful jelly-like consistency already, and it hasn't even cooled off. It's going to thicken up quite a bit when it cools. So keep that in mind as well, but that's what we're looking at. Okay, I want to give it one more nice little stir with my spatula just to get everything off of the sides and make sure nothing is sticking, and to check my consistency and to show you guys, of course. But this is what it looks like. This is gorgeous. I'm going to let it cool before I attempt to put it into a jar, just in case something stupid happens and I spill it. So this is coming off of the stove. Oh, and this has been on a total of 20 minutes once I brought it down to the simmer. So here is my jelly. This is only cool for like 10 minutes or so, but I'm kind of impatient. But you can see, again, it's definitely thickening up. It's looking gorgeous, and I'm going to make an attempt at pouring it into this jar. Everybody cross your fingers, close your eyes. The cutting board's just there for moral support for me. Plus, I don't want to have to clean up big messes. Yes, you can definitely use a funnel, but like I just now said, this is still pretty hot, and My funnel is made of plastic and I'm kind of afraid that it will melt and that will not give a good taste to my jelly. So look at that, and it goes, and yay! So that is in there. This can be stored in the fridge for several days. There are no preservatives in it, obviously, so you want to watch it for mold and that type of thing. But if you had a nice clean jar to start off with, this was boiling. I mean, it should be pretty good to go for at least several days, but probably even a couple of weeks.
Backbiteforever.com